She and I on the page on a lot of things. I have not very been.
I'd like to call to order the Developers Workshop for this evening. Presentation by Wendell Long, Mint Hill Self-Storage regarding possible developments at 11111 Arlington Church Road, tax parcel number 139-121-13, 139-121-09, 139-402-97, and 139-121-24, and 14211 Cabarrus Road, tax parcels 139-402-3 and 14449 Cabarrus Road, tax parcels numbers 139-121-26, 139-121-10, 139-121-12, and 139-121-17. Mr. Long, if you'd come to the podium, please, give us your name and your address. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Wendell Long, 8626 Brief Road in Mint Hill. So appreciate everybody's taking a little time tonight. We've had some conversations about this property and felt like it was good to bring it before the developers meeting first and before we go farther with it. So I don't know if there's any questions to start off with, or you want me just to go through the presentation first?
Go right ahead.
All right. So this is the area you see in green kind of surrounds our current location there. Where we're at, there's actually 4 parcels, but the one parcel wraps around most of it. And this is just a picture of some of the things we do there and some of our, people that store there, and we do have a waiting list on them. Homeowners, apartment dwellers, retirement people, recreational vehicles, boat owners, and small business owners. And this is we showed this picture to show some of what we're doing and working to do with this facility is to keep these kind of things from happening around Mint Hill, keep the community clean and looking nice, because this is what happens when they don't have anywhere to put anything. So the one parcel that, the 10-acre parcel that's the 14211 is listed as Cabarrus Road, but it does primarily front on Albemarle Road. It's directly to the side, if you're facing from Albemarle, to the right. Okay. And of course, we're looking at developing some climate control storage in addition to the recreation and vehicle parking we have now, and working on the stormwater master plan for existing and expansion. Just a couple more shots of it here, zoning from current residential actually now, and we may have to do some conditional with to build some buildings on the current site where we are. And, getting all our stormwater and everything, we didn't realize what all we needed to do there. So for the current and the expansion of the 10 acres and other parcels too, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you'll see on the left-hand picture, to the left is the additional 10-acre parcel. The pond is actually on the where we are currently at. So this is just showing the 10 acres and additional on Cabarrus and a proposed expansion of 6 buildings there in the future to go with that location. I'm gonna back up one time here just to address this. The parcel directly, I guess, south of the buildings there is a potential also because of the way the stormwater drains. That's what the engineers have told us is the best place to do that. The current owners they have given us first right of refusal. They're not wanting to enter into a contract at the moment because of so many unknowns with them and their health and other things. They don't want to tie it up, but we have got an agreement, and they do want to sell us the properties. Then, of course, this is some of the things, as far as the sidewalk situation and also the trees. Wanted to show this as where we are now. There's a good bit of trees there. We've got railroad, of course, fronting all along Albemarle Road there. And, we would have to get rid of a lot of trees and things, and not even sure what can be done on Albemarle. In the site, the view down Arlington is just showing we got a lot of, nice trees and all there that could be impacted. We're putting in sidewalks, and, I think we've got a lot of trees. We want to take them out and put them back in again is the question. So And this is just some traffic studies, showing there's 1,300 cars on Arlington now. That's the shot from the entrance. That entrance has been there for a long time, ever since the cell tower was there prior to us owning the property. And then, 2,400 on Cabarrus Road. And this is showing the existing entrance on the left and the cell tower. That's where everything comes in now. And possibly on the 10 acres, having a way to access in and out of there, not necessary, but if just from an emergency standpoint or anything, we needed access down there. So this is the two parts, primarily the two parts. One on the left would be, is the existing parcel, which you're looking at on the right, it's the additional 10 acres that we're immediately proposing for expansion. And then this shows the red line is, the additional parcels we're looking at and showing where a pond would be the ideal location for that on the property just to the south of our current facility. And, the existing businesses and residents are, wanting us to get this done, and this is a few reviews showing some feedback we've had from some of our customers and all. So if y'all got some questions, I went through that pretty quickly. I know we have a short timeline here, and I wanted to cover any. I'll back up and do whatever questions y'all may have. So.
Commissioner Long?
No, sir.
I knew you were going to say that right off the bat. I didn't even look down there, but I felt like I should. Commissioner Holton?
I think I went out with you, what was that, last year? And
Yes,
we
sir.
walked out there. So that's basically the same plan that you were telling me then, was that expansion from that backside?
That's correct. The only difference was it's in the planning process and looking at all our stormwater and all, the property to the south of it, or I'm saying below where we're looking at on these plans, I don't know exact location, but below there is something we want to consider also in the whole situation, just because that's where all the water goes.
Yeah.
And we can better utilize the property above that if we have that to do our stormwater on.
Okay.
And I think they'll go with it. It's just, they've had some health challenges and all, and just not sure about what they want to do. So I think we can get that worked out. I think that's going to be the best plan overall if we can make that. If we can't, we'll stay where, with just the additional 10 acres, and we'll make that work.
And I've seen, what is the wait right now for people wanting to store? I'm not talking enclosed, I'm talking like trailers and all that.
How many we got? Suzanne, do you have any idea?
Probably anywhere from 50 to 60.
And there's a wait on it right now?
Yeah, because we've actually, because of some of the planning and things and waiting on the engineers, we've been held up by even expanding where we are now, because we were hesitant to do a lot till we had our grading plan and everything all through Mecklenburg County. But that was the purpose of this meeting, was to get, a consensus here, if it looks like a good fit, and we can move forward before we go into tens of thousands of dollars to to get through Mecklenburg County. So.
I got you. That's all I have.
Wendell, you gonna try to do all these at one time?
Probably not. That's a great question. We usually phase it, but, and what we do a lot of times, we may go ahead and do the grading and to take care of the current parking need. We may go ahead and turn it into parking, and then as we develop, you're talking about like with the buildings and all?
Correct.
No, as we develop some of the need for the buildings, as we fill those up, we would move forward with that.
And then the outside, the newer ones, you're gonna have somebody at these spots during the day to overlook the rentals or the people coming in? Or is it gonna be like a card you punch in and go in and out yourself?
Well, you currently have a keypad there now, and we just manage everything from our Blair Road location.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much the model that the whole business is going to now. Okay. Your phone is basically how you get in. You can literally drive up to the gate and scan the QR code, or you can actually go right on the website, rent a unit, and drive in. So it's that.
That's all I've got.
Mr. Henderson?
You may have answered this, but what's the overall security of the facility in the area? What would that look like, just in terms of security?
Okay, help me out when you say security. I want to make sure I'm answering it correctly.
Just in terms of, I know you said that people will scan a card or something to go through, but just in terms of just the whole all of the buildings and the facilities and everything that's there? Is there any type of security that's in place
Or
or?
keeping it secure. Well, I
Yes.
mean, we have a 9,000 volt, 11-foot high fence around the whole perimeter.
Okay, that was security.
Does that help to answer your question? But also there's an electronic gate there where you have to have a code to enter a code to get in and out of the gate. And the gate's closed until someone comes up there, enters their code, and then they're able to go in and out at that point, so. Yeah, we work to keep it secure, so, as we can. Keep the deer out of it, that's one of our biggest challenges. They don't pay attention to that fence, they just go right through it, so. But we know when it's got a problem and go fix it, so, great question.
It's been a while since we had a developers workshop, so that everybody understands what we're trying to accomplish here. He's just looking for a thumbs up or a thumbs down to proceed with with his permitting process. And should give me a yes or no, John, kind of what we're looking for here. We're not approving any buildings, we're not approving anything at all here this evening, other than we feel like he's moving along in the right direction, and it's something that we could work with. If you'll clarify what I just said, please, so that everybody knows what they're doing here. We're not voting on anything, we're just going to give him a wink and a nod, so.
Right. Exactly what you said. Although, I'm not sure if you wanted to get into this. I sort of thought the point in this meeting may also be that you were looking for, we had discussed in the past, by right rezoning as opposed to conditional zoning. So I don't know if you had made a decision which path you were going to pursue. So I thought that was sort of what you were going to ask the board, is if they would support you following through on by right zoning, or if you were going to go through conditional zoning. So I don't know if that was something.
That's a great question, and I think, John, in order to build buildings on there for self-storage, that has to be a conditional plan, if I remember right. Is that correct?
That's the only way I'm gonna give you one of these. Because of the trouble we ran into on the other site without knowing,
Right.
Mecklenburg County knowing what's going on, and you knowing what Mecklenburg County wants and
Well, like I
everything
said,
else.
the
As long as you
combination.
come back in here, then we can.
Yeah. So that was what we had recommended, and yes, so just so you know, he would follow through with a rezoning petition, conditional zoning, so that would be a site plan, all the uses, landscape inside, all that, and they would go through the process with you.
Does anybody see a reason why he can't go on to the next step without?
No.
Nope.
I got one other question I want to, and I don't know if this is the time to talk about it right now or not, but just a general discussion. I'd like some input from y'all on both the trees and the sidewalks. I've showed a little bit of pictures if you want me to back up there, and I just would see if y'all can give your opinions or whatever you can do that.
Not just by looking at that picture, no, sir. We're gonna have to see what you have in mind, what the site plan says and all that kind of thing, if we're gonna make any exceptions to what we already have in place.
Okay. All right, well, just like I said, that was just a
mean-
question, because there's,
Yeah, there's no way I would say, yeah, a blanket, yeah, we can do with the sidewalks what you want to. No, we can't. We'd have to see a plan.
okay, that's fair enough. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see if there was something there we needed to, for discussion or
We always-
options, I
we-
guess.
We always entertain and have discussion on it. We don't always agree.
Right.
But we always entertain and have discussion on it. But we wouldn't do it without a site plan,
Okay, so you need to see it on a site plan.
please.
Well, like I say, the main reason for asking was the amount of trees and obstacles we got to work around there. What consideration, if any, is given to that in a
Right.
sidewalk situation? So I don't know, maybe there's not. So
Anything else?
I think that was the two main things that I know of, and we're working to get it done as quick as possible.
Okay.
That's to answer Dale's question.
Okay.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the developers workshop.
So moved.
Have a motion, to have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned.
Thank you.
I call to order the meeting of the Board of Commissioners, Town of Mint Hill, North Carolina, for February 10th, 2022. We do have a quorum present to conduct business. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Henderson to deliver our invocation, please.
Sir. Heavenly Father, we come before you on this evening, first recognizing your presence and your power. We ask that you would give us wisdom, give us guidance and direction as we seek to fulfill our ordained responsibilities. We pray for the great citizens of the town of Mint Hill and for all of our hardworking staff. We ask that you would protect them, watch over them, and allow them to experience all that you have purposed for them. Now lead us throughout this evening and help us to do all that you have called for us to do. Thank you in advance for ordering our steps. It is in the matchless name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen. You please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, on your agenda, item number 3 is additions, deletions, or arrangement of agenda items. The only one that I do have is item number 10. We will not go into closed session this evening. I got that on there by mistake because we handled the minutes and everything else while we were in closed session. So that won't be necessary this evening. So item number 10, we will not go to closed session. Item number 4, approve the minutes of the January 13th, 2022 regular meeting and the January 21 and 22 retreat.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5 is our consent agenda. To accept the January tax collector's report. B is to accept the December treasurer's reports and financials. C is to approve preliminary design services, surveying, and environmental permitting contracts for the public service facility.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes as well. Item number 6 is a public hearing on land use plan. Ian Anderson will be presenting the information. If you'll give us your name, your address, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Simmons and Commissioners. It's good to be here again. My name is Ian Anderson. I'm a landscape architect with American Company, 2609 Lawton Bluff Road, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28226. We are here to present the draft land use plan for you today. It has been a product of a lengthy process that we are pleased to have worked through with your town. It has been a very collaborative, open, transparent process, one that draws upon the town and the community to help us guide the plan and get us to where we are today. So that public engagement has included meetings here in person, talking about land use, putting dots on maps and having the community tell us what they think about the future of Mint Hill. We also have had an online component. When COVID started, we were doing virtual meetings, then we were doing hybrids, and pleased to say we were back to doing in-person meetings, which is a relief. But through all that, we've had a lot of contacts and been able to collect a lot of data from the community. We've got some pictures up here of some of those meetings. But really, you know, that website alone has had over 400 participants, giving us quite a bit of responses. So it has been a really great process with a lot of good input. So you have a very active community out there. So that has led us, by asking these questions, what's important? What should we need more of? What do we need less of? We were able to boil it down to a few key community topics and planning responses. You know, number one was sense of community and maintaining that small town feel. That was probably the one thing we heard most often is don't lose the small town feel. There was also a strong preference for more things to do, the entertainment, the nightlife, dining, that kind of thing. So mixed use activity centers are something that we wanted to look at more, so that we're not just dealing with the few kind of fast food and typical development that you're seeing along 51. Growth and changing demographics, I think there's a strong recognition that Mint Hill is changing. Growth is encroaching, and now is the time to respond and figure out how to manage that growth so that we can keep that small town feel. Open space matters, and next to small town feel, keeping the green in Mint Hill was very, very important. So preserving those natural resources, we heard a lot about the tree canopy. Folks see the development come in and the trees go down, and that I think really was a concern. So thinking about things of open space preservation, tree preservation ordinances, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the tail that wags the dog is infrastructure. And so being very diligent and deliberate about where infrastructure is headed, because we know the development will follow. So part of that task was looking at place types, and we do that by just putting up lots of different images of different types of land uses, residential, commercial, industrial, parks and rec, and all the different types and densities that those support. And so we got a lot of really good feedback on that, and asking people, where do you think this kind of stuff should go in Mint Hill? And so we get a lot of great interaction. This was some summaries from a couple public forums ago. This is our fourth opportunity to be in front of the public here in this room. At our second meeting, we were doing a lot of different visioning and workshopping, getting comments. But we started to hear a lot of those repeated things that we heard early on in the process of, we want that retail and mixed use. We consider renovation of existing buildings to turn them into more mom and pop type of boutiques. Downtown should have mixed use. We heard a lot about potentially condos above retail, vertically mixing those uses, which we think would be a great idea. And less auto-oriented businesses, more places where you can park, get out, and go do, spend your evening in one area with your family. So similarly, we asked questions about residential. What have you lived in the past? What do you think we need more of in Mint Hill? Do we have what we need to age in place here? All the different ranges of housing from starter homes to the patio homes and the 50-plus communities. So we heard got a lot of great input about from that. And similarly, parks and open space. What do we need more of? We heard a lot about greenways. Trails and greenways are always a very high order of magnitude in communities in terms of what the community wants, and we certainly heard that here. Interestingly, we heard we don't need more parks, but we need better parks. So maybe more of an effort to go back into some of our parks and add more amenities. And one thing that came through a lot of was a centralized rec center. YMCAs have been referenced a couple times from some community members, but generally speaking, some type of rec center, and particularly with some type of outdoor pool and aquatics component, was highly ranked. And then transportation mobility, that's always a hot button issue, and certainly with 51 and the traffic along here, that was what we heard a lot of. And so we put the maps up and asked them to tell us what intersections are troublesome for you. Where do we need more trail connectivity? Where should these greenways be connecting to? Where's your neighborhood, and where are you walking to? So we got a lot of good comments back on that as well. And in addition to asking the community, what should we do? We also look at the data. And so we've looked at the existing land use per county assessor, what those uses are right now. We looked at the actual residential density in Mint Hill. We're known for the half acre to an acre lots, larger lot, single family, but in actuality, as Mint Hill has grown, there are a range of lot sizes, and there are clusters of some of typical home sizes. And so we started to hone in on where those are and how to group those and what type of land use those should fall under. We look at structure to land value. That's kind of taking looking at the assessor data and saying, where does the structure value, is it less than 50% of the land value? Maybe that property it suggests maybe it is a little underutilized, and that might be something that could be looked at in terms of new land use. And then, of course, the utilities, particularly water, sewer, and particularly sewer, is where is that service now, and where is that development? As you can see on the map, it's coming from the Charlotte side with less services as you get out into the ETJ area on the east side of town. So all of these are layers of information that lead us to the draft future land use plan. And so we have added a few more layers of land uses, particularly in the residential category. If you will, as you know, the current land use plan recognizes generally one type of residential land use throughout most of the town, and that being that half acre to an acre lot. So this is now looking at what has actually been built, what's on the ground, and looking at what those types of housing are, and giving that one shade of color a few more to reflect those actual densities. We look at the sort of activity center prototype of when you get near these larger collector arterial roads where we start to see some of these commercial developments. How does that want to be organized, and how can we mix those uses both horizontally and vertically to kind of create these entertainment activity centers that everybody's looking for, and for these places to go on the weekends and in the evenings. So we take that land use plan and then we peel it apart again and we say, okay, let's just look at the mixed use and the employment centers. And as we look at that and start to hone in on this land use plan, we start to develop policy recommendations for each one of these land uses. So in terms of mixed use and employment centers, number one, establish downtown as a commercial, civic, and cultural center of the community and reinforce it as the center of the community. Another was direct commercial development to where the infrastructure is available right now and accessible, and reinforce centers by locating public facilities within and around them so they serve as those anchors and they're walkable for the community. And always looking for opportunities to expand job growth within the community. We think there is particularly, there's the retail commercial piece, but there's the adjacency to the rail line there offers a lot of great industrial opportunities as well. In terms of the residential, again, looking at all those different types of residential densities from the very, very rural over an acre lot to the much more smaller, compact, attached development type products that we're seeing, like Brighton Park. And so what are those policy recommendations that came out of that? Well, number one, preserve the character of existing neighborhoods. We don't want to intrude into the character of the neighborhoods that have been established, and make sure that those are preserved and then guide development, compatible adjacent development around that. We want to expand the range of housing choices. That was something we heard a lot of. Number one, on more on the senior side of looking for places to age out as folks grow out of these larger lot homes and start looking at maybe wanting to mow less lawn and take care of less property, and looking at those smaller patio homes. So again, looking at that housing type, and on the other side of that spectrum, starter homes for new families. And then locating residential uses that are less than an acre. So these smaller product housing that is very market driven right now, that we can start to concentrate those more around these activity centers and these nodes. So that essentially as you get closer to the commercial development, that housing can become a little bit more dense. And as you move away from them and get outside of those activity centers, we are back to that traditional Mint Hill, half acre to an acre lots, maintaining that green character. And then likewise, parks and open space. If we're not focused on, acquiring land to build more parks, and we're looking at building better parks and more greenways, it really is about kind of creating that interconnectivity, not just of the greenways and the parks, but the neighborhoods and these new activity centers, be it downtown or this future development that we're going to see at 485 and Lawyers Road. Starting to think about walkability, as well as our schools, our churches. How do we hit all of these civic and commercial centers and link them with our greenway trails and sidewalk systems? And this is to dovetail into the great work that the town staff has been doing on the infilling all of the sidewalks, gap infills as well. So that has plugged into the analysis on how to better interconnect these uses. So quick comparison, on the left is the current land use plan, on the right is where we're headed. And so you again can really see that we're trying to get to a finer grain of detail, particularly on the residential side, to reflect what has actually been occurring in Mint Hill in the 10 years since the existing land use plan was prepared. So I think that is generally the end of the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Henderson will start on that end this time.
Ian, what were some of the comments or views about parking as it relates to the center, of the community? In terms of the center district being the hub, what conversations were around that?
That we need more of it, and if it's gonna grow more, and if we're gonna add more commercial uses, that we need to solve the parking issue. Because what we've heard now is on a Saturday night, when you come down and you're looking through the parking lots quite a lot right now. That it currently feels that the opinion is it is underparked right now for these peak kind of entertainment dining moments. So that was one recommendation as we'll move forward, is we've got to park the downtown as we look. And that is the subject of a small area analysis that we're doing now. So parking, the ratio of parking to development, it has to pencil out. We can't. The developers won't come in if they can't park their patrons. So that is a very much is like utilities, a tail that wags that dog a bit. So currently not very satisfied with the parking level at peak moments. So that was the direction we heard from the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've all heard about the fast food along 51. You brought that up. What areas were they looking at when did they give you a choice or saying where they would like to see other restaurants and development?
Generally it was this idea of focusing in these nodes that are developed around these major intersections and roadways, and it's where they are now, but or where we're seeing commercial development now. They understand Lawyers Road and 485, that is going to be a mixed-use development. There's going to be a commercial component to that. So I think there's high expectations on, what some of these entertainment options are going to be there. Same for downtown. I think there's recognition that there's still more room to grow down here, but how we do that and making sure that it doesn't become more fast food or big box or things like that. So I think the idea of concentrated activity centers at these selective nodes versus letting it stretch up and down the highway was a very strong preference of the community. Is the term "don't become a fast food corridor" was used more than once as well.
Yeah, we've heard that too.
Yeah.
On the parks you were talking about, they said maybe not more parks, but better parks. Did they give you an idea of what they were looking for in the parks?
Yeah, I mentioned the aquatics thing, but we did hear some about basketball courts, that there aren't enough basketball courts right now for folks to play at. Those were probably two. Oh, and of course, I say aquatics, I roll splash pads into that. There is a desire for a pool facility, but as well as more areas to cool off with these splash pads and interactive fountains. So court sports, rec center, and aquatics, probably the big ones in the parks. And always the trails. Get me trails to and from my neighborhood and those parks.
Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Holton?
I think this is more, I guess, the conversation that John and I had earlier in reference to that resident that has the piece of property on 218 and right around 218 and Brief Road.
Yes.
Owns a couple different plots. One of the plots was labeled as employment center, but the other ones were not. And you were explaining something about layering.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out. So Ian, so can you talk about the sub-area plan? Because I think that would answer his question.
Yeah.
About how we're going to zoom into that 218 by the park.
Yes.
We're going to look at it as a focus plan and come back later with that.
Yeah, that particular intersection. So there's two identified small area plans that we're working on right now. One is downtown, so we're in one right now. The other is 218 and 485. So we are blowing that area up to look at actual road networks, land use, building massing, how it would park out. So we are going to get into a finer grain of detail into that, which could bring in some, it could expand those areas a little bit potentially, or add density maybe to some of those kind of commercial office uses. So that is something we're looking at right now, and we'll have a little bit more information in the coming month on that.
Okay. I'm going to follow up on that, Commissioner Long, if you don't mind, before.
You bet.
I know you're dialing in on that, and you guys are looking at lots at this point in time.
Yes, by the parcels.
Do you ever dial into the parcels far enough to see who the ownership is? To be able to tie that to, I mean, this particular person, I'm familiar with who he's talking about, has a parcel, couple parcels, as a matter of fact, but they should be probably tied in together at the time that they're developed in there. So
Yes.
do we get down to looking at the ownership of it and figure out where those lines are drawn?
We do, and we certainly look at where there's groups of one owner is controlling a large group of parcels of
Right.
land. We know that could put that assemblage in play.
Okay, good.
So yes, but we're not looking at getting who is it and what do you think they would want and that kind of thing.
No,
We're
and we
trying
don't
to
want-
keep a
we don't want
blind
you to.
eye.
We don't want you
Yeah,
to.
we look at it as the market would look at it.
Right.
How could this, develop and what would be best for Mint Hill based off what we've heard?
Okay, Commissioner Long, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Only one question to follow up for Patrick. What is the timeline on these small area plans?
We are finalizing those now. We will be bringing the full report with those sub-area plans. I probably bringing those in pieces starting in March to the board for final approval. So we need to work through those with staff prior to bringing those with you guys. So we'll be doing that in February. And you'll bring those through to you guys in March.
It'll be separate approvals, this and that. Okay,
That's currently the process we're driving at right now. Yep.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So what will the planning board see this month? Will they see what we're looking at tonight?
Yes, sir. So the next step would be this plan is going to go to the planning board. They're going to make a recommendation, excuse me. That will come back to March. I apologize. And then we will have the sub-area plans that we're working on, and that will go through a similar process that you're seeing here.
Will we approve all of it at one time, or are you going to approve it in sections as well?
We could, or it could be done in sections.
Okay. But that's not set in stone. We can make that decision
Yeah,
ourselves.
either way-
If-
either
If
way
we
is
think
fine.
it needs some more work, then we can make that decision
Absolutely,
ourselves.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? It's my understanding,
I would add, with regard to whether you adopt them separately or roll them into one, it's gonna be whatever timeframe you want.
right,
If you want your big picture land use plan adopted next month, that's up to you folks.
right.
If you're like, wait, we'll just do it all at once, again, it's totally the board's pleasure.
Anybody else? And I don't think, if I'm correct, nobody signed up to speak to this public hearing. So, thank you. Appreciate all your hard work. Look
Thank you.
forward to seeing the others.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point in time, I will close the public hearing on the land use plan. Item number 7 is public comments, and it's my understanding nobody signed up, nobody sent any emails, nothing to be read into the records this month. Item number 8, discussion on and decision on ZC 21-15, filed by Luther and Shelby Jones, petition to rezone property from R to BG General Business District for property located at 5011 Will Grove Mint Hill Road, tax parcel number 137-051-05. John?
Thank you, sir. The planning board met on January 24th, and they have an unfavorable recommendation from the petition with the following recommended consistency statement. ZC 2115 was found to be inconsistent with Mint Hill Land Use Plan based on the information contained in the application, and because the Mint Hill Land Use Plan recommended residential use for the property. We found this petition to not be reasonable and in the public interest based on the potential disruptive nature of commercial use within the predominantly residential setting. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion.
Let's do the A and B,
Yes.
if you would.
I make a motion to accept or modify the consistency statement as presented by the Mint Hill Planning Board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions on that? But just so we understand, where your motion is to accept their
Yes.
consistency statement.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number B, motion and decision on ZC 21-15.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we deny or reject.
Unfavorable.
Yes.
I have a motion.
Second.
Did I hear a second? Any questions, any comments, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 9, other business and council matters. Commissioner Henderson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to share that the Mint Hill Historical Society will be hosting a community open house in the new barn at the Carl J. McEwen Historic Village. It's going to be on this Saturday, February the 12th at 2 p.m. Just so that you're aware, the barn is an 1880 timber frame barn constructed with pine peg beams and accented with hand-wrought iron features and handmade sliding barn doors. The barn shows the rich history of agriculture and farming in Mint Hill and will provide revenue for the McEwen Historic Village through rental income. So it truly is an amazing event center. That's located at 7601 Matthews Mint Hill Road.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dalton.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Holton.
No, sir.
Commissioner Long.
No, sir.
Well, thank you. That was pretty good. I just want to, as I always want to end the meeting with, thank staff. They're sitting around the room for you that are in the room that don't work in this building every day. But I'm in here most of the time, and they're hard at work. They're keeping this town way ahead of the other towns. I have the privilege next Thursday of joining the other mayors in the county for our monthly mayor's luncheon. And I like to rub it in their face a little bit about how well our town staff does, and especially after our little snow episodes that we had with our group that takes care of our roads and make sure that we were all safe and sound. Our public works outshines everybody else in the surrounding towns, and make sure that gets in the minutes, please. And it's out there in front, so and I thank you for that. But they surprised the town as when I got on social media, which I don't do very often anymore. I did see that people were commending our public works staff for, they came out and expected to slip and slide all the way down the road and managed to drive from here to the roundabout, and they didn't slip and slide till they got on the other town side of the roundabout. So once again, the public works did a great job. If we don't have anything else, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.